Hey friends, in this video I'll be covering my most played game so far called Lords of Vegas. Note though that I am talking about the older Mayfair version of this game and not the newer Loan Shark version. However, they are mostly the same game except that the older version does not come with up expansion. Don't worry though because I will discuss this expansion at the end. And I will also compare it with Chinatown and tell you why I much prefer Lords of Vegas. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into it. Lords of Vegas is a 2 to 4 player board game where you try to build the wealthiest and most prestigious casino in the Las Vegas Strip. To set up, this board is placed in the center of your play area, and each player will get some dice and tokens of their chosen color. You would then also get 2 of these cards randomly to determine your starting conditions. First, you have your starting money, which is the sum of these 2 numbers shown on the card, in this case 8 plus 6, which will be $14. Then you also get your starting lots, which are D8 and D4. You have to mark these slots as yours by putting your marker on D8 and D4 on the board like so. Once this is done, you then have to discard your starting cards on the matching discard pile on the right like so. Discarding this way is important as it tells everyone how many cards of a specific color have been revealed. And finally, you place your scoring marker at the start of the scoring track. Once all of the players have done the starting setup, you would then have to divide the remaining cards in the deck into 4 approximately equal piles. You put this game over card on one of the piles and put the other piles on top of it. This way, the game over card should be located about 3/4 in from the top of the deck. You are now ready to play the game. Lords of Vegas plays turn by turn clockwise, and let's say that blue is the starting player. At the start of everyone's turn, the topmost card of the deck will be revealed. Just like the cards that you start with, this will also give you an additional lot on the board. In this case, blue will then get B6 on the board like so. After that, everyone will simultaneously do the income phase. This is where you get money based on what you have built. It's very easy to do at the start of the game because everyone only has empty lots and no buildings. Each empty lot that you have, no matter where they are, will produce $1 each during income. So in this example, red player will get a total of $2 from her 2 starting properties, and so does player green and player yellow. Player blue, however, will get $3 instead because the new lot that he got at the start of his turn will also generate income. If you had buildings, it will also generate income now, but more on that a bit later. Anyways, once everyone has gotten their income, the card that blue had revealed will then be placed on the matching color discard pile like so. Once that's done, blue player can then choose to do these various player actions on his turn. You can do most of these actions any number of times as long as you can pay the cost to do them. We'll go through each action, so let's start with build first. The build action simply lets you construct a casino on one of your empty lots. Each lot will tell you the price of building on it, and you also get to choose the color of your casino. So say that blue wanted to build a purple casino and he wanted to build it on this lot. Blue will then have to pay $12 to the bank. Then he would remove his marker from the lot and put the new casino on top instead. Finally, he puts his blue die at the center of the casino, matching its face upside to what is printed on the board. Now, these casino colors are not just cosmetic, as they will also determine when your casino will generate income. See, the color of the revealed card each turn will determine which casinos will pay out. Green cards will pay out green casinos, while silver cards will pay out silver casinos, and so on and so forth. So, if the next card revealed is purple, this casino that we just bought will pay out, giving us money and points. The amount of money you get is equal to the amount of pip on that casino, in this case $4, while the amount of points you will get will depend on the size of your casino. The size of your casino is determined by the number of tiles it has. This is therefore a size 1 casino because it only has 1 tile, and thus it will also only give you 1 point. The points that you get will then be tracked on this side of the board. And speaking of points, you actually win this game by getting the most points, while your money is just the tiebreaker. When you build casinos separately like this, they will give you 1 point each when a brown card is revealed. This is all fine and good in the beginning, but you will eventually hit a wall in the scoring track. See, the scoring track starts off pretty normal, so all the points you get from the example above can be added to your total points. But you will eventually see that the scoring track actually starts to skip some numbers from this point on. The point gap shown here tells you the minimum casino size that you must score in order to move past it. For example, if the gap is 2, you need to score a size 2 casino or more to jump over the gap. So no, these 3 size 1 casinos will not do. If you are a bit confused by this, just imagine that you are scoring 1 casino at a time. So if you're at 8 points and all 3 casino scores, the 1 point from the first casino will only bring you to 9, so you cannot quite go to the 10th space and have to go back down. This will then also happen for the second casino and so on and so forth. To go over this hurdle, you need to score a bigger size casino. This could be done by placing the same colored casinos orthogonally diagonally adjacent to each other like so. These two casinos will now be considered one bigger casino of size 2. So when a brown card is revealed again, you now can use the 2 points you get from this bigger casino to go up to the 10-point space. Though as you get more points, the point gap hurdle becomes more steep, which requires you to score an even larger casino. For example, to overcome this 4-point gap, you would need a size 4 casino like this. Okay, but this is difficult to do, right? You are literally getting these slots by card draw or luck. So what are the chances that you'll just get 4 next to each other like this? Very unlikely actually. And this is why you more often than not will instead have other players in the same one casino like this. Having multiple players in one casino is where things get a bit spicy because you will be competing for ownership. Each player, regardless of ownership, will get money from each one of their casino tile when they pay out. However, only the owner of that casino will get all of the points from that casino. Determining the owner of a multiplayer casino like this is quite easy. You simply check the dice faces in that casino, and whoever has got the highest die will be the owner of that casino. So in this case, Red has got a 6 over here, which gives her ownership of this casino as it is the highest die out of the 4 available. It does not matter how many dice you have in the casino or what their sum is. So even if these two blue dice were 5s, Red will still be the owner as she has the one highest die in the casino. Luckily, one of your actions lets you take a chance at reclaiming ownership, which is the Reorganize action. Reorganize simply lets you reroll all of the dice in that casino. However, you need to pay money to do this, and the cost will be equal to the sum of all the dice in that chosen casino. So in this example, the price to reorganize this casino would be 6 plus 5 plus 5 plus 2, which would total to a whopping $18. Say that blue decided to pay the cost, which means that we get to roll all 4 dice in this casino. Let's say that this is the result of the rerolls. Since there is a duplicate of the highest die pip in this casino, which will be these 2 5s, an additional reroll must be forced on these 2 dice. As green has the highest die of 6, he is now the owner of this casino. Though if this 6 were to be say 1 instead, we would then have to force a reroll on this duplicate 4s, as 4 is now the highest die number in this casino. Also, if you had to reroll multiple dice when reorganizing like blue did, the owner of the dice can swap around their dice however they like. So say that these 2 dice are 2 and 6 instead, blue player can therefore swap them around like so. Swapping this way has no real use for now, but it can be useful when we talk about sprawling a bit later. Anyways, back to our original final roll. In a shocking twist, blue paid for the reroll only for green to luck out and gain ownership of the casino. This obviously sucks for blue, and unfortunately you can only reorganize each die once per turn. So blue has to wait till his next turn before he can reroll again, even if he has enough money to do it right now. Blue can still reorganize other casinos though, say this separate one to try and get a 6. Anyways, here are a few more things that you can do on your turn. You can sprawl a casino that you own to expand it. You basically just build one tile orthogonally adjacent to your casino, and this new tile must also be of the same color as your casino. However, you can only build on empty lots, so if someone's marker is on it like this, you cannot touch it. And the cost of this is double the usual amount. So if you want to sprawl to F4 right here, you would have to pay 12 times $2 instead, which will be a whopping $24. Once you have paid, you simply put the tile and your dice on the lot as if you just did a build action. This is definitely a good way to expand your casino, but you have a risk of losing the lot that you sprawled to your opponent. See, the lot that you sprawled on was empty, right? Well, that means that the card for that lot is still somewhere in the deck. If one of your opponents were to get that card during their turn, they immediately get the lot by replacing the die on it like so. You are not guaranteed to lose the lot that you sprawled though, because you still could have drawn the card yourself, making the lot yours permanently, or the card for that lot is below the game over card in the deck, meaning that no one will ever draw it. And then we also have the Remodel action, which lets you change the color of one whole casino to a color of your choice. Just like the Sprawl action, you need ownership of the casino in order to remodel. The cost to remodel is $5 per tile, but why would you pay money to remodel your casino? Well, you can use this action to improve your casino's paying out chances. You know, since the revealed cards so far in the game are tracked, you can change the color of your casino to whatever color has been revealed the least so far. So in this example, since our current casino color is brown, it's probably a good idea to change its color to either green or purple. You can also take over other casinos by combining this action with Sprawl and Reorganize. Say that we have this casino right here. We can attempt to take over the brown casino by first reorganizing our green casino. Say that we are lucky enough to get a 6 right away. All we need to do then is change our casino's color to brown and sprawl onto one of these sides to connect stack the casinos together. Though because there are 2 sixes there, the 2 dice are then forced to reroll, so let's hope that you can roll another 6. And last but certainly not least, we have the gamble action. You choose one of your opponents to gamble against and set the amount that you want to bet. Then roll 2 dice to determine who wins the gamble. Using this card as a guide, if the sum of your roll matches any of the numbers here, you win the gamble and the opponent has to pay the same amount that you had bet. If you roll a 2 or 12 though, you triple your money instead. Otherwise, say if you roll a 7, you lose the bet because 7 is not any of these numbers, so your opponent just wins your bet money. The maximum amount that you can gamble will depend on the size of your opponent's largest casino. If their largest casino size is 3, you simply multiply that by 5, giving 15 as the max bet amount. So if someone does not own a casino, say at the start of the game, you cannot gamble against them. Also, you can only gamble once per turn, and that is all of the actions that you can do on your turn. There is actually one more thing that you can do anytime, and that is trading. Only money, unbuilt lots, dice in casinos, and actions can be traded, and you have to resolve all of your trades instantly. So you cannot promise that you will give them something in the future. And yeah, when you are done with your actions, usually because you run out of money, it will then be the next player clockwise's turn. The turn sequence will always be the same, where it will start with a card reveal, which gives the active player an unoccupied lot, followed by income based on the card color that was revealed, and finally that player gets to choose what actions to do. You keep playing this way turn by turn clockwise until someone reveals the game over card. When that happens, all you need to do is perform income one last time. The game over card is actually what you call a strip card. So far, the color of the revealed card determines the color of the casino that will pay out. But for a strip card, it will instead pay out casinos based on their location and not color. Strip cards will pay out all casinos that is located next to this Las Vegas strip. So say that we have all these casinos here. The ones that would pay out when a strip card is revealed would be these ones because a part of the casino is right next to the strip. Including the game over card, there are only 4 strip cards in the deck. This is not a lot compared to the color cards as there are 9 for each color. And yeah, after scoring the strip for the game over card, the player who's got the most points is the winner of the game. Ties are broken by the amount of money. Okay, that's basically all of the rules for Lords of Vegas. So how good or bad is the game? Well, this game is actually really fun. This is one of those games that you play when you don't want to think too much and just have some silly fun. Everything that you do in this game has a chance/gambling element to it, so it is quite thrilling when they actually pay off. This is further elevated by the high player interaction that the game has. Taking over a large casino that has 3 other players in it and then have it pay off instantly is pretty satisfying. And speaking of interaction, most if not all of the player interaction in this game are quite fair and tactful. For example, when someone takes over your casino, they only take your points and not also your income. So this won't stifle you from actually playing the game. Yes, players can still gamble and take your money away, but you actually have a higher chance of winning when you are gambled against. Also, you need to own a sizable casino before people can gamble big money against you. But when you have a big casino, you really are in a better position. I know I said that the game is mostly gambling and silly fun, but it definitely does not play itself. Most of the time, the game will force you to make decisions based on your limited money. For example, say you wanted to build a casino here to take over this other casino, but you are $5 short. You can just wait till next turn, or build on this other lot that you have first, and perhaps reroll the dice on it to try and get 5 or 6, so that you can take over this other casino in the future. Or you can also gamble $5 to try and get that extra $5 you need. You will be confronted with various ways to play your turn like this. Alright, enough gushing and let's actually talk about some downsides. First off, the game isn't so great at lower player counts. This game to me is pretty much a 4-player only game, as it has got the right balance of player interaction and waiting time. As you go down from 4 to 3 players, you are losing that sweet player interaction, which really makes the game great. And while having less downtime between your turns sounds great, you actually won't be able to do as many actions during your turn because you won't have as much money. There are less players in the game and therefore less income rounds before it gets back to your turn. The only marginally good thing that I can think of is that you do have more frequent turns, meaning you can react to the board state faster. But this really does not make up for the reduced interaction. 3 players is honestly not that bad, but I would much rather play other heavier games that usually benefits from the lower player count. 2 players though, on the other hand, is just trash. It's like playing a party game with 2 players, there is just not enough players. Okay, let's move on to the second downside, which are these paper money. These things are just awful to handle and will get crumpled real quick based on how flimsy it is. My advice advice to you is play the game once with this paper money, and if you like the game, replace them immediately with poker chips. You can buy these poker chips online for quite cheap, and they are so much better to handle than the crappy paper money. The only kind of downside to this whole poker chip thing is that you'll have to often trade in the $1 chip with the $5 ones from the supply, as there is just not enough of them. But still beats using paper money by a lot. The last annoying thing that I would like to talk about is the upkeep. Someone has to be the quote-unquote banker of this game, responsible in distributing everyone's money and up their points during each income phase. This starts off quite easy because no one has buildings yet, but it will get complicated and tedious later on. This is a bit much to do for one person, so each other player really needs to be proactive and count their own income. Only then will the upkeep be actually reasonable. Alright, let's now talk about this up expansion. As I have said earlier, this is included in the new version of Lords of Vegas, and it's really the only major difference between the two versions. This expansion comes with two separate modules. Number 1, the player count is now increased to 6 players. You literally just get 2 extra player colors, and you can play up to 6 without using the second module. That's really it. Number 2, it adds a new player action called Raise. Raise lets you build casinos upwards by putting one of these riser tiles under the casino like so. You can stack as many times as the player count -1. So if you have 4 players, you can put at max 3 of these risers under each casino. Each of these riser tile costs a whopping $15, but it will increase your casino's point payout by 1 per tile. So the higher your casino, the more points it will pay out. Though your money income stays exactly the same. Casinos are now also separated by levels, meaning that these 3 purple casinos you are seeing right now are considered 3 separate casinos. They all need to be on the same level like so to be considered one casino. If you want to raise this casino further, you would have to raise the entire casino, which would require 3 risers for a total of $45. This same level rule also applies to other actions. So if you want to sprawl this casino, the sprawled casino needs to be on the same level, which would be quite expensive. Alright, so is this expansion good? Well, I don't actually like it. The heart of this game is in its chaos and player interaction, but this expansion basically lets you avoid conflict. The base game forces you to do takeovers and wrestle for control because you need to own bigger casinos to overcome the point gaps in the score track. But in the expansion, this kinda becomes optional, as you can now just build upwards. So instead of fighting for this size 4 casino, you can instead just build one casino and raise it 3 times. This encourages players to turtle, which you really don't want in a game like this. Okay, sure, this adds a strategic option or whatever, but no one's playing this game for the strategy. This is such a tone-deaf addition to the original game. Increasing the player count to 5 though is actually not that bad. The added interaction is always welcome, and the extra downtime is still quite bearable. And yes, this is without the risers. I actually have not played the game with 6 players, but extrapolating from 5, aside from the even longer downtime, the upkeep is also going to be a bit ridiculous, and you will have even lesser turns. You only use around 36 cards regardless of player count, so in a 6-player game, you will only get around 6 turns. When you compare this to 4-player games where you get around 9 turns instead, you really are waiting more than you are playing the game. So my recommended player count would be 4, then 5, then if you have no other games, maybe 3. And that's it. Okay, it is now time to compare Lords of Vegas with Chinatown. The two games do get compared a lot as they have quite a few similarities to each other. For example, both games are about having lots and buildings on a common board. You are also given empty lots randomly throughout the game, though they give you some choice in Chinatown. You can also construct buildings on the lots that you own, but this is where things start to get a bit different. In Chinatown, you cannot just choose to build whatever buildings you want, as you need to own the building tiles yourself. You are basically lucky dipping for these tiles every round, so you gotta trade and negotiate to get the tiles that you want. Each building tile always has a number on it like so, which tells you the required amount of tiles that you need to complete the building. So for this tea house, you would need to have 3 of your own tea houses in a cluster, say like this, in order to complete the building. Each building that you have on the board will give you income regardless of completion, but completing a building will give you a big jump in income. In this example, the complete florist building will give you 80k per round, while the incomplete dim sum building will give you 60k per round instead. If you do complete the building later though, it will jump up to 110k. So yes, you can place buildings down even if they are not complete, because unlike Lords of Vegas, your buildings will always produce income every round regardless of what you build. However, the buildings that you put on the board are permanent and cannot be replaced or taken off for the rest of the game, though it still can change ownership for trade purposes. Also, these buildings only give you money and no points because the win condition is is to have the most money. Where the game gets very different though, and really what's putting me off, is number 1, the game really restricts you to its negotiation mechanic. Essentially, if the game does not give you the lot or building that you wanted, your only option is to trade/negotiate it with others. Though if they decline your offer, well, too freaking bad, because there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. There is no takeover mechanic here, so in this example, these are 3 separate buildings, and you definitely cannot sprawl onto an empty lot either. So if no one in the game ever gets the lot that you want, you are basically getting locked out of it. Moving on to the second thing I do not like about this game, which is the ability to math out some of your trades, completely taking out the negotiation part of it. Here's an example. Player blue needs 1 more tile to complete his 3-tile tea house building, while at the same time, player yellow also needs 1 more tile to complete her 4-tile florist building. Luckily for them both, each player happens to have the tile that the other player needed, so it makes sense for them to just trade, right? Nope. Well, at least not if you are player blue, as player yellow has more to gain. Let's say that this trade went through. For player blue, his income will jump up from 20k to 50k, which would be a 30k increase. On the other hand, when player yellow completes her 4-tile building, her income would instead jump from 40k to 80k, which would be a 40k increase per round. Assuming that we have 3 more rounds in this game, player blue and yellow's total gain will be 90k and 120k respectively. In order to make this trade objectively fair, player yellow needs to also pay 15k to player blue, which would make each player's total gain become 105k. So now each player has got the same gain. You are not negotiating anymore when this happens, as it just becomes a solvable math problem. Of course, not all of the negotiations in this game are like this, especially if multiple people are fighting over the same thing. But when your game is all about negotiation, something like this should really not be a thing. In Lords of Vegas, you can never math anything out because you don't know how many times those casinos are going to pay out. So the game's randomness really does work in its favor. So yeah, Lords of Vegas to me is what Chinatown wishes it can be. It is just straight up the better game in every single aspect. All of my sentiments towards Chinatown also applies to Waterfall Park, as this game is essentially just a simplified Chinatown reskin. And yeah, that's it for this really long review. Check out my channel for more videos like this and leave a comment down below.